call this meeting to order Tuesday, December the 11th at 6 o'clock p.m. Agenda regular meeting, City of Aiken Planning Commission. Let me ask everyone, if you don't mind, to silence your cell phones or turn them off so we don't have disturbances from those. First order of business is the approval of the minutes. Do I have a motion?
Motion for approval.
Second.
Any additions, corrections, discussion? Everybody in favor of approving the minutes? Raise your right hand. Opposed? Like sign. Okay. Minutes are approved. Old business. No old business tonight on the docket. New business. We've got several applications. I guess I better run through them. First application, number 19-20010, annexation request on Clifton Street. Anybody here to speak in favor of that? Anybody here to speak in opposition to that? Okay, do I have a motion?
Mr. Chairman.
Go ahead, Sue. I'm sorry, go ahead. I'll go ahead and make a motion in reference to 19-20010 on annexation request on tax parcel 122-09-03-006 located at 105 Clifton Street. I would recommend that we send this to council favorably. It's within the comprehensive plans and the ideas and traditions that we normally go with.
Okay, second.
Second.
Okay, all in favor? Right hand. Opposed, like sign? Okay, so approved. B, application number 19-20011, also an annexation request, also on Clifton Street. Anybody here who wants to speak on behalf of that or in opposition to that? Okay, do I have a motion?
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am.
With reference to application number 19-20011, an annexation request for tax parcel number 122-09-03-008 for 109 Clifton Street Southeast, I move that we recommend this to City Council because it falls within our comprehensive plan for annexation.
Okay, second? Second. Okay, all in favor? And opposed? Okay. Application for annexation is approved. C is application number 19-20012, annexation request on Timberlane Road by the City of Aiken. Anybody want to speak in favor of that application, annexation request? Anybody wish to speak in opposition to that annexation request? Yes, sir. Is somebody? Please step forward if you would, and come up here to the mic and give us your name and address.
My name is Melvin Googe.
Okay. And your address, Mr. Googe?
It's 1857 Park Avenue Southeast.
Okay.
But I was born and raised on Cherokee Street and related to half the people there.
All right.
I just want to know, they're not going to go back there and put a pacer run or nothing like that on that property.
Well,
Mr. Chairman, yeah, there's no development plan at this point. This is a city-owned property that has become adjacent to the city limits, and so pursuant to our own annexation policy, would annex it into the city.
there's no, in answer to your question, I guess there's no current plans to do anything with it.
Well, is it planned for it in the future then?
I'm not aware of any plans for it at this time. For now, it's being zoned residential single family 15, which would permit single family houses, 15,000 square foot lot minimum, similar to Cherokee Street. So if there would be anything but that, it would have to come through a rezoning process.
Oh, we would be notified again?
That's correct.
It's being rezoned to single housing. You with me? You're not going to be able to build a multi-stage apartment complex there without further rezoning, if that's what your question is.
Yeah, because I was, like I say, intended to accommodate much of the projected growth in the unincorporated area of Aiken County, right? making it short, it says this facility could be in commercial or ready for schools and all this. Is that pertaining to the same?
Well, I see city manager standing up here. Mr. Beatonbaugh, would you like to comment?
Technically, your applicant.
As the planning director, Mr. Chairman, stated, this is a city-owned parcel that we've had for about 22 years. The state of Lake Mare Weeks donated it to the city. There are no plans to sell it at this time. However, since it is city-owned and adjacent, to sort of be consistent with our practices to have property contiguous to the city limits, especially property we own, we're asking that it be annexed into the city.
Okay, so there's no plans for development at this
No,
time?
sir. I will tell you, the city will not be developing anything on it, and there's no plans to develop it.
The city
Just
may
wanna bring
sell
it
it,
into
the city may sell it for the use of single-family housing.
That is correct. It will
Still
be
a lot.
zoned for residential, and it's 2.5 acres. My understanding years ago, before my time, is that the property was initially going to be used for stormwater detention.
Correct. We had a
And
meeting about that.
that's right. The highest and best use is probably something along those lines. And I know we've looked at that property as part of the Hitchcock Woods stormwater project because, believe it or not, the Sand River Basin extends all the way into that area. So
I
it
did
was
not know
looked at
that.
being part of that solution. It ultimately was not in this first phase, but yes, that was the intention of that property back in the day. And we, if you noticed, have been back there cleaning it up and getting it sort of trying to be better neighbors.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thanks, Mr. Beatonbaugh.
Thank you.
Okay, anyone else on that issue? Okay, I have a motion.
Mr. Chairman, in regards to application number 19-20012, annexation request, tax parcel number 121-16-01-004, location Timberlane Road, I recommend that we send this to council for final approval.
The
And
second?
it is in council.
All in favor? So approved. Okay, 3D, application number 19-20013, also an annexation request on Chatham Street by Mr. Darrell Adair. Anybody wish to speak on that issue, either pro or con? Okay, do I have a motion?
Chairman,
Yes, sir.
application number 19-20013, annexation request, tax parcel number 122-06-12-005, location 502 Chapman Street, Southeast. I recommend that we send this to council for approval.
Second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor? Raise your hand. Opposed? Like sign? Okay. E is a application number 19-20014, annexation request again on Clifton Street. Clifton Street is
Virginia Aiken.
very active tonight. Anybody wish to speak on that, pro or con? Okay, do I have a motion?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
I propose application 19-20013, annexation request for tax parcel 122-0612-005, located at 502 Chatham Street Southeast.
No, this is, we're on Clifton now, we're on E.
We're on E.
Oh, I'm sorry. Start over.
Start over, yes, sir.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, application 19-20014, annexation request, tax parcel 122-0903-007, location 107 Clifton Street, that we recommend this to City Council for approval.
Second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor? Opposed? Okay, so that E is approved. F. This is application number 19-20015, annexation request again on Henry Street. Anybody wish to speak pro or con regarding this application for annexation? Okay, do I have a motion?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, ma'am.
with respect to application number 19-20015, an annexation request for tax parcel number 122-10-04-009, located at 505 Henry Street. I move that we recommend this to City Council because it falls within our comprehensive plan.
Is there a second?
Annexation.
Okay, all in favor, raise your hand. Opposed, like sign. Okay. So F is approved. Okay, we have 2 remaining items of new business. G, which is application number 19-60006, rezoning request from office to plan residential regarding the old hospital, 828 Richland Avenue. And we have H, which is application number 19-22002, concept plan approval request, which goes along with the rezoning request as to the same piece of property. So I'm going to handle those G and H together. We'll discuss both those at the same time. Anybody wish to speak in favor of this rezoning request and concept plan approval request by the Marian Development Group? Is anybody here for them? Yes. Mr. Edmund, come on up here.
And Reggie Ebner. Question is, I support what's, without a doubt, what you're planning to do. My question is the status of the antenna. Going back about a year ago, the city was only going to be given some property if it came over to the new police station, and I'd like just an update if there's any city liability with the antenna from a financial issue.
Ryan, you got any words of wisdom on that?
I don't. Is Mr. Biedenbow is still here? At this point, is my understanding that they're working on the feasibility of relocating the antenna, but there would need to still be, I believe, feasibility studies on a piece of property that the city does own as to whether it'd be appropriate to be able to be located there at this time, but that is the most information I have.
And I concur with putting it on the property. My concern, and if you'd follow up with an email in the minutes to see if there's any liability for helping to move the antenna, and because there was none in the project for the public safety building a year ago. And I've been off council for a year, but I'm a year out of date, and I just would like to get an update.
Again, I'm not aware of any at this time.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks. Okay, is anybody here from Marian? Yes, sir. That's the guy I'm looking for.
Good evening. My name is James Duffy. I'm a representative of the Marian Group. We're a multifamily housing developer based out of Louisville, Kentucky, and we submitted the concept plan and rezoning plan for 828 Richland Avenue. The concept plan, I'll start with that first, consists of a 213-unit multifamily apartment housing development. 69 of those units will reside in the historic adaptive reuse of the old Aiken County Hospital. And on the balance of the site, we have planned for 144 additional apartment units. As far as the zoning is concerned, we would like to, we have applied for a planned residential zoning. We felt like that was the best fit because it provides the most flexibility to meet the needs of our development. And with that, City Council would have complete discretion on the design of this project. So while it gives us great flexibility, it also gives the city flexibility as well. There are about 4 points that I'd like to speak to how this development adheres to the planned residential zoning district. The first, we take in consideration the natural features of the site. So the way it falls, we located a detention pond in the upper left-hand corner of the site. There. Secondly, we consolidated access points along all 4 boundaries of the site. So you have one access point there on Valcouz. You have 2 access points on Barnwell, and then one on the East Road there. We have removed 1 access point off Richland Avenue there. Third, we wanted something that conformed to the surrounding land uses. This area is a commercial residential transitional area. As you move west to east, it transitions from commercial to residential. So we felt multifamily was a very good fit for that. And just directly to the north is also another multifamily development. The second element of the planned residential zoning that we wanted to orient the project with the street fronts to create the more connectivity. We wanted this project to connect directly to downtown so that residents have the walkability to go downtown. Secondly, the historic adaptive reuse of the old hospital. That is something that we will apply for. We'll apply to have that placed on the National Historic Register, as well as we'll preserve the sandstone wall that surrounds that parking lot. The third element, design and sizing of the streets, drainage, and utility services will all be adequate to service the development. And fourth and final element, design of the building and structures are appropriate and compatible with with the surrounding development. And I have additional slides to show that. For the rezoning review, consistency with the comprehensive plan was sort of our guiding, that was our guidebook for putting this plan together. There are numerous goals and strategies which we adhere to. The first being growth. The plan development will have a significant impact on the local economy. It will bring more residents to downtown and turn a vacant and abandoned property back into a community asset. Second, it'll increase connectivity. Development will tie the community together through urban design, and future residents will have direct connection to downtown through street-oriented development and walkability, while connecting Aiken's heritage through historic design and historic preservation. Transformation. New residential units downtown will complement an already vibrant downtown. And then the final element, balance. We wanted to create a balance of demographics, economics, and planned residential gave us the most flexibility to be able to do that. And, since submitting this, we've received, some initial comments, and we've given thought to those comments. And so I have a few slides that show, what we've given thought to. I think the first and foremost concern that we've heard is the amount of density that we first proposed. 213 units, that roughly equates to 23 units per acre on that site. I think the highest density allowed for multifamily is 17.5 units per acre. So we have revised our concept plan to reflect the 17.5 units per acre, and it would be more in line with HMR zoning district. We would still need a waiver for that under the
Are you reducing you mean you're reducing the number of apartments?
Yes, sir.
To what would be the total?
160.
Okay.
How did you accomplish that? How did you, I mean, did you do away with a level, or?
We removed two multifamily apartment buildings.
Do you have a plan?
Buildings gone.
Do you have a new concept?
This is it right here.
That reflects the.
Yeah, so you have 4 new buildings and then the hospital. Also increase the amount of green space, reduce the amount of parking.
Where's the hospital on there?
Point the hospital out,
right.
she's saying.
Oh, right
Assume
there.
it's that
Okay.
big building right in the center.
So then it would be 1, 2, 3, 4, a larger green space.
And we've removed the parking lot in front of the hospital there for sort of active green space or plaza. We've shown a playground right there in the middle of the site, and we would landscape the detention basin to turn that into an amenity rather than just a regular old detention basin.
Parking lot behind the hospital?
To the west.
Any parking spaces?
To the west.
Did you add new parking spaces?
Yes, sir. Yes.
Is that in the center there?
Actually, that parking lot exists already. Not in that exact form, but that parking lot does exist already. The new parking is directly behind the new buildings on the north and the southwest there.
Are you, now, I assume your company is the owner of this piece of property, right?
We are currently not. The county currently owns that.
But you're in negotiation or something?
Mm-hmm.
All right. Are these units for sale? Are they going to be rental? Are they going to be condos for sale?
All be rental.
They'll all be rental?
All be rental, yes, sir.
And what is your target audience?
Excuse me?
What would your target audience be? I mean, for renters?
People?
Yes, people.
I guess, you know, a wide range. We want to target families. We want to target young people. Young people are very attracted to the loft-style apartments that we would create in the hospital. And then we're also considering a senior component as well. So the site would be intergenerational.
How many, you say you reduced the number to 163?
160.
Or 160. So you've reduced the 3-bedroom to 2-bedroom or 1-bedroom? You haven't just quite decided that yet, or what?
All of those got reduced. I don't have the exact numbers in front of me, though.
You're aware that the nurses building, that there is an issue regarding the nurses building with regard to the historical nature of that building. Are you aware of that issue that's floating around out there now with the?
I am. Mm-hmm.
The design review board is apparently meeting in early January.
Yes.
To discuss that issue.
Mm-hmm.
And so under y'all's plan, you take the nurses building down.
Yes, we would.
You leave the hospital, take the nurses building down.
We would leave the hospital and take the nurses building down. Yes.
Have you done a elevation plot yet? I'm kind of interested because there's quite a severe slope.
Are you talking about
behind the hospital? You're going to have
a topo survey of the site?
Yeah.
Yes, we have done one of those.
One of those, that access road there behind the hospital that comes off Barnwell?
Yes, sir.
It's quite a severe elevation change.
You're talking about for the road?
Well, that road that you're building there by the Tri-Development Center off of Barnwell, that's 30, 40 feet.
Yes.
So how are you going to grade that? Are you going to?
We haven't gotten, it's just that we're in the concept phase right now, so we have not addressed that or gotten that far.
Okay.
So that would require more.
What is the Marian Group's intention, assuming that you had this built, you say it's rental?
Yes, sir.
And what's your price point?
For the hospital, it'd be about $1.40 a square foot, and then for the For the new builds, it would be about around $1 a square foot.
And then, so the typical size for a one-bedroom would be?
I believe our one bedroom, so all of the one bedrooms are located in the hospital. And all of those vary because we're restricted to what the hospital gives us. But I think they range anywhere from, I think, 600 square feet up to, I think some of the units are 1,200 square feet.
Even as a one-bedroom, they would be that much range? Yeah.
The 1,200 square foot would be a two-bedroom. There are some two-bedroom units in the plan for the hospital.
What about the parking? How many parking for each unit? I mean, explain to me again the number of parking slots. So
the requirement per the zoning is 1.5 units or spaces per unit.
And you think that's enough?
That's more than enough right there.
Yeah, there's more than 1.5.
Yeah, that's showing over parking right there. And we need that for the flexibility because engineering will change that.
So you didn't add any parking, you just took away the parking in front of the old hospital, basically?
Yes, sir. We removed that.
And two buildings.
Mr. Duffy, I believe there's some people here that are very excited that you are interested in doing business in the city of Aiken, but they're also concerned about this being subsidized housing or the wrong element coming into that area. Are you truly looking to do a first-class operation and try to get our millennial type age group in here into the downtown area, or is this potentially something that could be subsidized, federally subsidized housing?
This is going to be a mixed income development. So, we're gonna cater to millennials. We're gonna cater to families. We're gonna cater to seniors. Our plan for the hospital is a Class A development. Our plan for the new build is a Class A development.
Because I just didn't see any, like, sometimes you see tennis courts or you see a pool, and to the east side of the hospital, that is currently where the ambulances many years ago used to bring patients in, the east side that fronts Morgan Street. I see a couple little trees or whatever, but it's not really defined. What were you going to put on that side that fronts Morgan Street?
On Morgan Street, that would be a courtyard, and actually we have thought about putting a pool there in that courtyard space.
I'm just curious, why would you request a planned residential versus one of the multifamily designations?
Because that gives us the ability to ask for a waiver on density, and also it gives the.
But now you're conforming. You've agreed to conform to basically the density.
We're still not conforming. I mean, we're conforming to that.
You're closer. You're closer.
I think it lends to the fact that we want more flexibility with our development plan, and for that flexibility, we are giving up complete control of our design. So if we went in under a high density residential, anybody can go in and build apartments. If we go in under plan, we're held to that planned residential development if it's approved. Whereas if we did high density residential, if we weren't successful, another developer could come in and build what they wanted.
So will you go into the senior aspect of this project, or what you're thinking of this project? What building are you referencing, and what are you entailing that looks like?
For
the senior component.
The senior component? So the concept would be the two buildings on the north end would be reserved for seniors. And it'd be age restricted to 55 and older.
You going to have an elevator in those?
Yes, ma'am.
Just checking.
Okay, questions, any questions? Now's an opportunity to ask them.
What's the long-term prognosis for Marian Group? I mean, assuming this got built, I mean, what's your investment in this community with that plan? I mean, does the Marian Group maintain the maintenance of the facility?
Yes, we do.
For the longevity of it? Or?
We are also the property manager as well.
I think I have a question. Normally, when you go plan residential with a concept plan, what we would like to look at, or what we'd like to see, ideally, and we don't always get this, not always going to get this, is something there other than just the apartment, like a walking track, or like a little shop area, or a little park area with some,
Yeah.
things. I don't see any of that.
He's got that there, though.
I see it.
We have it labeled. We don't have it specifically built out on there.
Okay.
But that is.
But you don't have any area necessarily designated for any kind of little shops or any kind of walking area, any kind of water feature specifically?
We do not. We do not right now, no. And we thought about, maybe having a coffee shop or something like that, but you can go downtown.
True.
And have all the, and we didn't want to detract anything from downtown. I think that was one of the things that really surprised us the most about Aiken, is how vibrant the downtown is. And that's really rare for a town of this size. So it's really something special. And we wanted to try to preserve that as much as possible.
Okay.
But you are going to plan to have a pool?
I can't promise a pool at this point, but it's definitely out there.
I have a question, and based on these these elevation renderings that you've presented us, and the Marian Group thinks that's consistent with some of the other downtown areas and some of the other.
So we took a second look at that, and I don't
think you need to
have additional. Yeah, here we go. So we kind of went out into the community and pulled, older buildings or older design buildings that we thought, fit well into the community. And these are just some examples that we came up with. Can you go back to that final slide?
I guess my question, Mr. Duffy, my concern is and I fully support the growth of this area and the investment in the community.
Much nicer.
My concern is that this facade does not reflect what we have in the downtown area and some of the surrounding areas, in my personal opinion. I'm just concerned that it's not consistent with some of the other renderings and some of the other the photos that you just showed. I have some real concern over the particular design of your proposed.
Okay. What about this one?
Well, that one looks more in
this
touch
is
with what I think Aiken's charm is.
And that's the thing. We went into the neighborhood. We pulled specific design elements out of the neighborhood and came up with this,
I think if you
elevation.
could come back with something that is more in line with what maybe some of the surrounding parts in Aiken are, I think you'll find yourself getting a little bit warmer reception from the concept plan, if that makes sense.
Mr. Chairman, I think Ryan brings up a good point here. The packet we had and the public had in front of them prior to this evening has been revised in a huge way. And that's kind of my concern of, should this not be re-presented or tabled or continued to a later date until all these points are made and presented prior to a meeting like this?
Yeah, plus we've got the issue outstanding with the Design Review Board on the historical nature. See that, if the Design Review Board finds that the nurses building is a historical quote building, that's going to throw a little bit of a wrench into the works here.
right now, the historic overlay district does not include this site, and that application
That's right.
is to include the entire site.
And you all made the application to include it?
They did not.
Oh, they did not?
No, we would make the application to put the hospital on the National Historic Register.
I tend to
Okay.
agree with that. I mean, the nurses' building is nice, but it's not special.
Yeah, well, you know,
it's-
well, look, not every old building is historic.
Exactly.
But every historic building is old. You can get back and forth on the issue, and that's in the eye of the beholder to a certain extent.
not
The
that
Design Review Board is the beholder in that sense in this
Not
case.
that much older than me, so it can't be that old.
No, but maybe there's another purpose that you might be able to figure out to use that nurses, whether that be the property management office or whatever.
Pool house.
And Mr. Duffy, I want to make sure that you understand, I am absolutely for the development of this parcel.
Yeah.
I think it is a catalyst. I think it's an anchor of our downtown. I just want it to be done in the correct way, and I think you guys have great intentions of doing that. Obviously, you've made some edits to your plan. My big fear here is that not enough of this was done prior to tonight, and that's my concern.
These changes reflect the comments that we received. So, you know, we are listening, and we do want what's best for Aiken.
And I can tell you that's much appreciated. I'm sure that you will find out.
And so it might be better to continue this until we get another revised plan, reform plan, new plan.
To our next meeting.
Until the next meeting, considering your new proposals. I mean, if somebody wants to.
I'll make a motion.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, to, I don't want to say table, to continue this review to our next meeting. Okay. Prior to that, asking the Marian group to present these revised concept plans that you've done here, so the public and the planning can have proper time to determine some of these changes, since they're seemingly significant.
And is there a second?
I'll second that.
Okay. Now, discussion.
So I think it would be beholden of these guys, and for him in particular, it seems like the public has made some inputs and they've made some changes. Would it be beneficial to have some of this public input be given tonight so that they don't have to come back again?
Yes, we can. Okay. We won't close out all discussion tonight after this motion. We'll continue some discussion tonight. Now, there's a motion on the table in a second. I mean, a motion made and seconded. If you can't get it done by our next meeting and Ryan can work with you, then we wouldn't have any problem with you coming in February, for instance. I mean, if it takes you a little longer to get stuff together.
When is your next? Because we are held to.
Second week in January.
It's the first Tuesday second Tuesday after the first Monday or something weird like that.
We'll make sure you know.
We'll let you know.
It would be January 8th.
January 8th, okay. And I will be down here on the 3rd, so, yeah, I think January 8th would be.
Okay, any further discussion on the motion?
And Mr. Duffy, I would encourage you maybe to even, after our meeting tonight, if there's people that want to come up to you after the meeting and give you their input, I think there's
I'd be happy to talk to anybody.
There's a wealth of knowledge out there, and people that are very concerned that live in the neighborhood out here listening to you tonight.
Yeah, Mr. Duffy, we fully support developing the area.
Absolutely.
We want to see the area grow, but we owe it to the public, especially here in Aiken, a small, tight-knit community, to have some thorough review and thought and comments. And so we're not trying to scare you away, but we're trying to support you.
I understand.
Yeah, and I'd just like to add, there has been, I would say in the past 15 years, a strong concerted downtown urban renewal effort in that area. And the people who worked for that take pride in what they've done with those little houses. And so we want to keep everything where they're happy too.
And I agree. I echo the comments. This is a piece of property. There's not a lot of pieces of property like this around the city. And so we want this to be done in a good way, in a way that it benefits, of course, you as a developer and the people living there and the rest of the city. So it's an important piece of property. It's an entrance, it's kind of an entrance way to the property, and a little bit of an entrance way from the west side there.
One thing also, before you, Mr. Abner came up and spoke about the antenna. Yes, sir. If you purchase that property, are you taking that antenna down?
So the county is working on finding an alternate location for that antenna, and that's an ongoing process. Right? It would be
good in your proposal to have something on that, if you could.
Okay.
Once again, actually, my question is, if you were to purchase that piece of land, would you or your company take that antenna down?
No, that would be the responsibility of the county and the city.
It would have to be moved, though. I think everybody would agree with that.
Yes, sir. Yes,
it's
sir.
going to have to be moved.
Yes.
So that's part of the consideration. Okay. Any other comments on the motion, which has been seconded? Okay. All in favor of the motion, raise your right hand. Opposed? Okay. We have continued it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Now, it's 6:45. Anybody here feel strongly urged to have any comments about this proposal? Yes, Lucy. Come up, state your name, address, age.
No, that's classified. My name is Lucy Knowles. I live at 1141 Two Notch Road in the city of Aiken. One of my part-time employments is design review board member, and I'd like to stick my neck out and offer or suggest that these drawings would profit by an advisory review by design review. Right. I think this is a big improvement over what we've seen before. And I'd like to thank Mr. Duffy, who spoke with me and some of my colleagues on the phone about the development. And he obviously has incorporated a lot of the things that we suggested. And I'm very pleased by that. And the only thing that I'd like to see that I haven't seen is that the zoning ordinance requires massing buildings to protect historic features, and I think that this could be done to preserve the historic nurses' home, and I'd even like to see them put a few more apartments in there, because I think that could be very nice and attractive. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Just before I forget, you can. I'm sorry, this didn't have anything to do with you, Lucy. You can sit down. We had a couple of comments that came to us by way of a letter or email or something like that. We will make those part of the record. I'm not going to read them into the record, but we'll make them part of the record. Okay. Anything else? Anybody else want to comment? Yes, ma'am.
I'll be brief.
Thank you.
My name is Laura Bagwell. I live at 2111 Solstice Meadow Lane, outside the city limits of Aiken. I own property in Kalmia Hill, adjacent to the city limits. I am the, founding organizer of the West Richland Improvement Team, and I've spoken to this board and other city and county organizations many times. We are a grassroots coalition of residents and business owners and concerned citizens, really that are committed to enhancing the entire Richland Avenue West corridor. That includes anything from aesthetics to business to safety to functionality. One of our overarching goals, in fact the first goal, has been for a couple of years now to preserve and adaptively reuse the old hospital. And we are encouraged. And now I'm speaking for myself, because maybe not everybody in my grassroots organization is here or has seen this. But speaking at some risk on behalf of everybody in my organization, I am encouraged by what I see here. We appreciate Mr. Duffy being here. We appreciate that he and his group have made some significant changes based on the input that we've given them ahead of this meeting. We want to have that whole area developed as a gateway on the west side of downtown proper, we want to see a greater connection between downtown Aiken and areas west on Richland Avenue, including the hospital, the university, those businesses out there. We want to have something that that will succeed and that will be responsive to the great need for housing in Aiken. There was an article, I believe, in yesterday's paper about that. So we will get behind anything that will succeed. I also would love to see the nurses' building preserved, but our overarching concern, based on our review of the first conceptual plan, was the very great density. We thought that was way too much density for planned residential, exceeded even that for residential multifamily high density. If they take down, if they go from 6 additional buildings to 4, that reduces that density to become more in line with residential high density. And that might be something with the appropriate design that we can all get behind. So thank you very much for the opportunity to be heard, and let us know if you have any questions.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Okay, who else? Yes, sir.
Just a quick question. Does the developer intend to apply for low-income housing tax credits, or will these be market rate apartments?
I have absolutely no idea.
You can ask. Who is this gentleman? I'm sorry. Mr. Chairman.
State your name, please, sir. Yeah.
Is Brian South. I live at 318 Lawrence Street Southwest.
You'd like to address that, Mr. Duffy?
To answer his question, one phase of our development will be applying for low-income housing tax credits.
Okay.
And it will be one of the new construction developments.
Just state it again, just to make sure.
We will be applying for low-income housing tax credits, not for the entire site, but for part of the site.
How many units are given?
I think we're looking at 94 units. So one would be a family development, one would be a senior development.
It's fairly standard with the senior.
Yes, sir. Low-income housing tax credits.
Most places do.
With seniors do.
Yeah. You need to say that.
Yes, if you're saying 90, that's about 60%. And that it's not unusual with senior housing, as I understand it. I don't know that much about it, but
that's correct. Most seniors are on fixed incomes. And
okay, thank you. Any other questions, comments? The audience. Yes, sir. One of you come up and one of you sit down up front, so you won't have very far to walk.
I'm Neil Myers, 1108 Valley Green Drive. Welcome to Aiken, Mr. Plan. Mr. Rayburn beat me to it. I was going to say it's a moving target. I don't know how in the world you can make a decision. This is a professional group, the Marian group. Initially, June 6 and 7, Mr. Brown, who was the principal of the Marian Group, said we're tentatively proposing a combination of apartments and possible for sale housing, townhomes, that sort of thing, with a renovation of the hospital. One possible use of the hospital would be adaptive reuse into a hotel. Now tonight, we've had 2 more. These people know how to look at the ordinances and come up with a firm plan. I'll just make one more statement. I don't think there are any elevators in these buildings. If you have old people or anyone that's handicapped, how are they going to get up and down?
I think you've got, there's no question about in the senior housing, if you've got more than one story, I think you've got to have them.
You have to have them.
I don't think it's an option.
I don't think they were shown tonight.
Okay, but I mean, I hear you, but okay.
Good evening. I'm Ralph Courtney. I reside at 3422 Meadow Drive in Calmia Hills. But I'm here not representing Calmia Hills, but the Board of Directors of Tri-Development Center, which is just across Barnwell Avenue. We're at the other corner of Barnwell and Vaucluse from this property. And we're not really objecting to a multifamily use. The concern is density, and particularly some of the parking for safety reasons. And of course, we understand that the density impacts the need for parking. If I can just walk over here for a second, go ahead. Point to you. If I'm looking at this correctly, this is Barnwell Avenue.
That's right.
You'll see a lot of these diagonal parking places. If you follow this means of egress, you'll see straight across from there is a means of egress from Tri-Development Center. Okay. So our concerns are already there aren't any sidewalks on that street. Okay. And we do have a lot of 15 passenger, 12 passenger, 10 passenger, as well as other vehicles coming out who will be turning right into those people backing out of where you see some of those parking places near where I pointed. You know, that just doesn't appear safe. We also have multiple people with disabilities walking up and down that street. The kids from Helping Hands walk to the store, you know, accompanied by staff. We've got some senior citizens who live just right on up the hill at the corner, who walk down that way to get to Rose's or wherever. And that parking being on street, you know, right on the street there, causes me great concern. I mentioned it to my board. They were very supportive of me, you know, seeing if perhaps that could be changed. You know, they really go, if you look at those parking places, they go very close to the, where our driveway comes out on both sides. The biggest concern is with these on the facing the diagram to the right, you know, where they would be backing up one way and would be pulling out, and would we see each other? You know, it just looks like an accident waiting to happen. If you cross the street, on the other side of the street, there's a gully. You know, we would need a sidewalk or something, but even then, for the car, that would be for the safety of the pedestrians. But for the cars, I think it would still be.
There's a sidewalk in front of all those parking spaces that runs in the top end where the car would pull. There's a sidewalk in front of all those parking spaces.
Something else, just the street.
Right here.
It looks like a sidewalk right there.
Yeah.
There's Tri-Development.
It looks like a walking path of some kind.
And that runs down Richland Avenue, comes down Vaucluse. Only place there's not a sidewalk is on this back.
I don't know, ask Mr. Duffy. Is there, it looks like there is a sidewalk on the property. Is that, are we reading that accurately?
Are we talking about?
Show them, yes, sir.
Yes.
That's a sidewalk, Mr. Courtney, you see it?
Okay.
On the other side
I
as well?
assume that's a public sidewalk. There's not going to be a wall there of any kind, is there?
Sidewalks here. It's not shown there. Well, it's not shown there, but there will be a sidewalk there as well.
In the back?
See that, Mr. Courtney?
So that is, yes, so that is a public sidewalk.
Yes.
That's the way it appears.
All right, and so the pedestrians, I'm glad you took care of that. Really appreciate that. I am concerned, however, about the first, particularly these parking places.
Not going to be a problem.
Some of these right here, right on a big curve. We had that guardrail that sits up there in the diagram by the brown area. We had to have that replaced several years ago because people flying around that corner had hit it so many times. We were also successful in getting the speed limit reduced to 15 miles per hour. Yeah. People come down that road, they think our driveway is the road, and they go there and all of a sudden One day I came out of my office with the car upside down with 2 teenagers. On that curb, the car upside down, we had to get them into our office, dripping blood on the floor and everything, on an ambulance. Happened to know them, notified the parents. But that is a danger, you know, there's reasons for thinking that it's dangerous. I wish I had let them allow me to keep that guardrail. It was the most beat up thing, not just from one accident, but over a period of years. Going around that curb one time, a person on a bike was actually killed as well.
But it looks like to me, based on their design of it, it's going to improve the pedestrian walking in that area.
The pedestrian is...
We can't do much about that road.
Yeah,
frankly, that's the city's...
And I said the pedestrian, I appreciate that having been addressed.
It looks like it's going to improve
However,
it.
the parking where people are backing up right into where we're pulling out.
Well, but that's just going to take people paying attention to their driving. I mean, people pull out on Lawrence Street all the time, and I drive a very small car, and if I park by a big truck, it takes me a long time to get out of that space because I can't see anything. So I just have to take my... Yeah, I know. I just have to take my time. So...
Right.
But I think with the sidewalks, they're making a big effort to improve, and that should improve everything.
So for the pedestrians, I agree with that.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
I think one key aspect is this, is that not only the city engineer has to approve the parking along Barnwell, DOT is going to have to approve the parking along DOT.
I understand.
On that
I've
road.
already understood
So I think that's that conversation could be had way down the road.
Yeah.
And, yeah, Mr. Chairman, just the other thing is if there are concerns like that the board does have with the plan, that you can recommend conditions related to some of those things to mitigate those sorts of issues if you're determined significant enough. So.
I was not told about the sidewalk when I reviewed
Yeah, well, it's, yeah, okay. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Gordon.
Thanks for your concern.
Yes, sir. Okay, any other? Yes, sir.
Kirk Owen, Hayne Avenue. Just a couple observations. I think everyone in this room realizes that piece of property needs to be changed, but I challenge anybody to find an apartment complex 30 years later that's as good or better than it was when it was built. The incentive here for this company is the tax credits, et cetera, and build this and be gone. They may manage for a while, but 30 years from now, an apartment complex on that piece of land is going to have a very detrimental effect to that part of Aiken. I don't think, part of it apartments, the old hospital maybe, then you build homes for people that are going to have a stake in the game and be part of the community, not apartments.
Well, many of the apartment buildings that have been built in Aiken have turned into condominiums. So there's also... Rarely successful at that. Well, I've seen...
Yeah. Well, okay.
Chairman, you have
yes, sir.
My name's Donnie Arosh. I live at 132 Trafalgar Street Southwest. About the subsidized housing, you're going to have 60% of the housing subsidized. We had a mobile home park in New York. There was roughly 200 units in it. Out of that 200 units, there were 10 to 12 units that were Section 8. 99% of our police calls, our driving, our problems came from the Section 8 housing that was in there. It took us a year to get everybody out and get it cleaned up. And before you start saying, oh, it's a race thing and everything else, every single family was white. Okay, it's not a black thing, it's not a white thing, it's not a purple or orange or green thing. It's the fact that, what's the answer? How do you fix it? I don't know. I'm just telling you, you're going to put 60% of the complex on subsidized housing, and we had 10 to 12 families in 200 that caused 99% of our problems for a year. Mm-hmm. How do you deal with it? I don't know. How do you change it and make it better? I don't know. These are just facts. I mean, that's just what it was. And it's, you know, not hearsay or anything else. It's something I dealt with. So it's really something you got to look at, and I don't have the answer on how to fix it.
Okay, thank you. Comments? Any more? Yes, ma'am.
My name's Elaine Roche. I live at 132 Trafalgar. Some of the things that I had written down have been addressed. And I have no problem with assisted living for seniors or others, for working people, but I do have a problem with Section 8 housing being located in the corridor of the city and, quite frankly, within throwing distance from my home that I've lived in for 20 years. I've been in Aiken for 40 years. And I think we do have a right to care about our property value. I've worked hard all my life to have what I have. Our homes are usually our biggest asset in our life. If I need to turn it around and I need the money to do a reverse mortgage or whatever, those are assets that I would want and feel that I deserve to have. Let's see, what else did I... And I also think that as we grow older, as I am older, that we deserve to have a safe and quiet place to grow old. And in living downtown in our mixed up little LP area, we've had a safe environment to live in and a quiet one. And I am really concerned about the density, for one thing, which they've cut down, but not to what it's supposed to be according to the actual amount that we're allowed to have at this point. And I worry about when people have no skin in the game. I think it's historic. If they're not making a contribution to the properties that they live in, those properties are going to go downhill. Our crime rates are going to increase. And especially in this day and age with, with the crime increasing anyway, I just think we're just asking for trouble in this area. And we're right next to the historic district and the entryway to our city. Aiken County is a huge county, and we have a lot of places to put things like this. I'm not against doing it, but I'm against having Section 8 housing there. I think when you have big complexes, you're asking for more trouble. I think if you make smaller complexes in different areas, I think that you can keep a better control on it. The police can keep a better control on things. I'm sorry if that hurts somebody's feelings, but we have a right to feel the way we do about our assets, and that's my opinion. So,
okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, sir. You were next. Yes, sir.
He wanted to address her.
Thank you very much. I'm Martin Buckley. I live on Two Notch Road in Aiken, and I think we've had some very good comments so far, and I think I agree with all of them. This is the west entry to the downtown of Aiken, four blocks from Lawrence Street. It's an important site, and I see density as being the biggest problem. If it weren't so dense, it could be done more gracefully. The pattern of the vehicular movement and the number of cars required is tremendous for the site. The other comment I have is the zoning. We have no zoning to accept this sort of thing. You're being asked to make up a zoning for it. I'd like to see it fit something we've got.
Well, we've got the zoning.
We have zoning.
We've certainly got planned residential zoning. It's PR. It's well established.
Yeah,
we can create within the PR zone. We have a lot of control, and I say we. I'm speaking of basically the city council with our recommendation over what goes there, how it looks, how many people go in there. There's a lot of you can exert a lot of control over it. You don't have 100% of control, but you got a lot of control.
I totally agree you do, but this exceeds what the PR that we have in the book.
Not with his changes.
At this point.
Did you hear the changes?
The density is greater than.
It exceeds it. It exceeds. It would require an exception to the density issue.
Yes.
Only by 7 units.
Yeah, but not a huge exception, but it would require. You're right about that.
Yes, sir.
7 units, by 7 units.
7 per acre.
17.
So you're correct, it'd be actually 5.5 units to the acre.
Thank you very much.
Exception. Yeah.
Fairly significant exception. But any type of either multi-apartment use, multi-condo use would require an exception to the planned residential. If you go planned residential, you're going to have an exception to the density. If you go multifamily, you know, you might not. Yes, ma'am.
Charlotte Wiedemann, 626 Hain Avenue. One of the things that I think is incredibly important in this is the original winter colony of Aiken. There's that winter colony that we always hear about, but the original winter colony is this area in question. And this is something that draws people to Aiken. It is incredibly important to preserve the character here. So what you're looking at putting here is a mishmash of, we went out into the community and picked a few things and stuck them all together, and here it is with a lot of people. And then one of the things I think that is important that the gentleman asked, or who lives on Lawrence Street, was, is this low-income housing tax credit property? Because it seemed to be skirted around the entire time, and we see this application here that tells us, oh, we're going to be putting in apartments that range in price from $900 to $1,500 a month. But for low-income housing tax credits, that's 60% of AMI in Aiken, and AMI in Aiken is around $50,000. So we're looking at people who make $20,000 a year, and you're looking at apartments that are going to be held at around $500 a month. And that's a lot of apartments at that price in the prime entrance to the city. And that's not to say that that isn't a need, but as the other gentleman alluded to who left, this is an important place, and while it may be fancy and glossy for the first couple of years while the Marian group reaps their low-income housing tax credits and the break they get from the federal government for it, in a few years it will be in decline. So I think it's something, when we look at this piece of property, we have to look at it as an important gateway into the city and its place into our original winter colony.
Thank you.
Robert Stack, 126 Florence Street, Aiken. Couple of things. Number one, the demand for this number of units based on, studies, et cetera. I haven't heard anything about what supports this type of demand. I live on Florence Street, and just between Richland and Hain Avenue, we have 9 market value rental apartments. Okay, I've lived there for over 10 years. For the past 6 years, those apartments have not rented above 30 to 40% maximum. Okay, that's right 2 blocks away from downtown. So I would question where the demand for this number of units is going to be coming from. The concentration in my mind is excessive. I think you're all familiar with Han Village. Could any of you tell me the concentration currently in Han Village? Number of units, number of acreage?
I couldn't. 20 plus acres.
How many units?
I don't know.
Okay, there are 100 units in Han Village. There are 17 acres. Okay? And what is our plan for Han Village?
Tear it down.
Tear it down. Why are we planning to tear down Han Village? Okay, Reggie Barner came before the council a number of years ago to recommend this, and it's being supported by council to tear it down. Why? For a number of reasons. One, it's run down, and they said it's better to just start over again rather than to try to fix the problem. He also mentioned that what we need, Reggie did, a deconcentration of poverty. In my mind, that's exactly the opposite of what we're doing here. You're putting in 90 low-income units, so you're concentrating poverty on 9 acres, versus what has proven not to work here in Aiken, not to work almost anywhere else in this country. When you concentrate poverty, it doesn't work. So how they're going to guarantee diversity so that doesn't happen in this situation, I don't know how you can do that. So that's my concern. Look at Han Village as an example of what happens when you have a concentration of poverty. It didn't work, and I question whether it will work here either at the concentrations and the proposal that they're making. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Okay. Yes, sir. Mr. Duffy, you wanted to address something.
I would just like to clarify that this is not going to be Section 8 housing. The low-income tax credit is not a rental subsidy. It's a subsidy to actually get the units built. The rents will be restricted to 60% AMI. 20% of those units will be restricted to 50% AMI. It is not going to be a concentration of poverty. We're proposing market rate units in the hospital. 69 units in the hospital. We'll have a 48-unit family development, and we'll have a 48-unit senior development.
Now, Mr. Duffy, you have heard the comments tonight.
Yes, sir.
In your proposal, I want you to talk about exactly what you're talking about now. Okay?
Yes, sir.
Get down to it. The amount of what you're charging, number of apartments, to alleviate this concern that is out there with regard to this issue.
When it comes to zoning, to speak to that, that's borderline fair housing issues. When it comes to zoning.
When it comes to zoning, but in your proposal, you could talk about the number of units you got and the per square foot cost per unit and the number of senior units you got and the per square, couldn't you?
Yeah,
I'm assuming
I just can't, I'm only limited in what I can say in terms of,
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that they've created a
zoning can't be approved or denied based on income.
Yeah.
Zoning cannot be, you're saying?
Correct.
Right. Well, we know that.
Well, I know you all know that. So I just wanted to clarify that.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Mr. Duffy, did you say that the low-income housing would be the 2 units to the north?
It'll be.
Did I understand that right?
It'll be the 2 units here to the southwest and the 2 buildings to the north.
In the upper part.
The 4 units that are being built, the hospital would not be the...
Right.
And I believe to clarify, I believe you referenced those as senior targeted units, the northern ones, but yeah.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Chairman.
Yes, sir. Yeah, you want to speak again?
Quick question. I know that the county council voted to sell the property to the Marian group. I understand, or I've heard, that they have not purchased it. Are they obligated to purchase it? Will they purchase it? Or if you turn them down on some of these things, can they back out of it?
Well, I don't know. I don't think we're entitled to know that, the details of their contractual agreement with the county. Okay. We can make assumptions. We can all make assumptions on that issue. Okay, but.
I'm lost. Thank you.
Good evening. Rocking the Pier, on business on 143 Trafalgar Street for the last 29 years. Point of clarification. The senior housing are the 2 buildings to the north. Is that correct? Or did I just hear something different?
I think that's what that's his initial plan. Now, I don't.
The 2 on the southwest will be the low income subsidized.
I think what he's saying is that the 2 on the barn or the Vaucluse side and the 2 north would all be for the low income tax credits. The two to the north, though, would be designated for the seniors.
Okay, thank you. The second thing is this, I've been to many of these hearings over the last 29 years, and the floor plans for these units that are being provided to us are microscopic in nature. And I know the Marian group can provide us some blueprints and some floor plans that are a 1/4 inch to the foot or thereabouts, or 1/8 of an inch to the foot, so that we can see the floor plans of these proposed units. And I'd appreciate it if you would make sure they provide that to us.
As much detail as they can.
They already have these buildings designed.
Much,
You know,
I would agree.
This is nothing unique or new to them. Thank you.
Okay, comments? Anything else, briefly? Okay,
We just have to vote.
we've already voted. We voted to continue. So that concludes the meeting. We opened it for the yes, sir. You want one last comment?
Yes.
Somebody back there? Yes, ma'am. Last comment. We've already voted on the motion.
Yeah, just as a reminder, you will have another public hearing in a month as well, so.
Okay,
My name is Mandy Drumming. I live at 412 Northwest Pendleton Street. I had prepared my own comments here, but from what I gather, this plan is extremely conceptual, so this doesn't really apply. But I would like to make the comment that I think Aiken, I believe that this plan should represent what I'd like to call sophisticated modernity, which is kind of this balanced interplay between innovation and tradition, and I feel that's what Aiken kind of gives Aiken its edge. It's its historic architecture and its public green spaces. And I hope this plan reflects that, including the historic Aiken Hospital, which does include the nurses' building and the old stone wall. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Okay, I think that exhausts the topic tonight, so do we have a motion to adjourn?
Before I do, I want to say one last thing.
Yes, sir.
Tonight concludes 32 years of service. I appreciate the Planning Commission letting me serve for the last 6 years, and I'm officially retiring as of the night. So
We continue.
Let's give Mr. Peckley a hand. We will miss you, Bob. We'll miss you. We'll miss your expertise. Okay, motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second? In favor? All right, let's go.